Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, now we will discuss on the topic pollution impacts or consequences. In the last class we have seen that due to the ever increasing population growth, large number of pollution or pollutants are getting entry into environment, in air, in soil and in water, and those are entering into the human body through different sources, and also different living organisms are being affected. Not only that, overall environment or the global environment are also being affected due to the pollution, and in this class we will see how these pollutants are creating different consequences on the human health and on the environment. And the topic or subtopic for today's discussion are impact due to groundwater and surface water pollution, impact due to air pollution, impact due to soil pollution, and impact due to noise pollution, and also the ozone layer depletion and global warming. So, these will be the subtopic for today's discussion, and first we will see how the water pollutants impact on the human body as well as on the environment. So, in the previous class we have seen that water has different quality parameters like say physical, chemical, biochemical and microbiological parameters, and these are listed here. Already in the previous class we have discussed about these, and all these parameters are very important and we need to maintain the quality or the values of these parameters within certain limits as per the CPCB guideline, that is Central Pollution Control Board's guideline for different types of water like say drinking water or say industrial wastewater after treatment, it will be discharged on the surface water or sewage water or irrigation like this. So, we have seen that. So, at first we will discuss impact due to groundwater and surface water pollution, and out of different parameters this biological parameter BOD is very important, BOD and COD particularly for surface water, so river water, canal water etc. Because you see here in this graph, if the wastewater, that is the sewage from the domestic sector gets entry into the river stream say here in this point, so then immediately it will be having some impact. How? The impact on the water quality. How? Because it will be having more BOD COD than the upstream water, and then when it is entering here it is mixed and then its BOD concentration increases, and dissolved oxygen concentration is say if it is saturated, then we can say it is 8 to 9 ppm. So, this DO will start to decrease immediately because microbes are present in the water, they will try to consume the organic compounds, and gradually organic compounds will be consumed and DO requirement will increase, dissolved oxygen requirement will increase and availability of dissolved oxygen will be decreasing. So, that way oxygen sag curve, this is called, the oxygen concentration will reduce and organic concentration is maximum here. So, that will also be reduced here with time. So, as a result what is happening with time, as we go downstream of this location, then the DO concentration will be gradually decreasing. And here two phenomena is there, one is oxygen dissolved in water is consumed by the microorganisms for the oxidations of the organic compounds. So, DO is reduced, other way there is some equilibrium with air, that is always there is some diffusion of oxygen from air to water phase. So, oxygen concentration is increasing gradually with time. So, as we go downstream gradually the oxygen is entering into the water with the same rate, but oxygen requirement for the degradation is initially increasing, but gradually it is decreasing, because all the organics will be consumed at a certain time and then the oxygen requirement will be reduced. However, oxygen diffusion from air to water will increase and ultimately again it will reach to the saturated value of DO. Now, this is called oxygen sag curve and this is a natural phenomena which happens in the river stream. Now, within any position here, if these pollutants are higher in concentration and within short distance number of wastes are entering into the river stream. So, river will not get certain time for its revival. As a result, along the length we will be having some locations where the dissolved oxygen will be very less, and if it is lesser than say 2 ppm, then living organisms cannot survive. So, this is an impact. So, to all the living organisms, because of these pollutions the living organisms may not be able to survive in aquatic environment, depending upon the concentration as well as the toxicity of the pollutants present in this stream. So, the severity will be different. Now, you see this figure shows the fishes are floating after dead fishes are floating. Okay. So, maybe one possible reason is that dissolved oxygen is reached such a level that these fishes are not able to survive, that may be one reason, maybe other reasons also. So, this is one impact due to the depletion of dissolved oxygen concentration in the water due to the entry of contaminated water stream into the river stream. Now, this is for surface water one example. We will give some examples for contamination in groundwater. So, groundwater contamination particularly with arsenic and fluoride, these are very important topic today. Not only arsenic and fluoride, many other pollutants are available in the groundwater and those are also creating many negative impact on human health. So, we will be discussing those gradually. So, this we are discussing here the impact of arsenic. So, arsenic poisoning or arsenic have different effects like say nerve damage and then skin damage and then increased cancer risk, lung cancer, bladder cancer, kidney and liver cancers and circulatory problems in skin. So, these are the major impacts due to long term consumption of arsenic contaminated groundwater. So, now we are going to see the impact of fluoride contamination as well. In the previous class we have seen that large part of the world are having the fluoride contaminated groundwater and different types of health impacts are there. So, these two important health impacts are like skeletal fluorosis and dental fluorosis. So, this is because of again the excessive exposure to fluoride contaminated water, that means long term consumption of fluoride contaminated groundwater. So, these are the bone diseases, you see how severe these are. So, this is for some impacts due to contaminated groundwater. Then heavy metals may be present in the groundwater. So, if it enters into our body when we use it as a drinking purpose without any treatment, so then it can also create different types of health problems. Like heavy metals toxicity can have several health effects in the body. Heavy metals can damage and alter the functioning of organs such as brain, kidney, lungs, liver and blood. So, heavy metal toxicity can either be acute or chronic effects. They may be, if in higher concentration they may show immediate impact, and if lower concentration but for long term consumption they can give acute impact. So, now long term exposure of the body to heavy metal can progressively lead to muscular, physical and neurological degenerative processes that are similar to diseases such as Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy and Alzheimer's disease. So, these are some example of diseases caused due to the heavy metal contamination. Also, chronic long term exposure of some heavy metals may cause cancer. It has been observed that Itai disease, an epidemic of bone fractures in Japan, was due to cadmium contamination, and the symptoms of manganism are very similar to that Parkinson disease because of manganese. Now, we will see the impacts of nitrates. The nitrate is also present in groundwater, and if we use the nitrate contaminated groundwater, if the concentration is above certain limit, then also we will be facing some consequences like say blue baby syndrome, which we see from this. And blue baby syndrome, what is this? So, high nitrate and nitrite levels may cause a potentially fatal blood disorder in infants under 6 months of age called methemoglobinemia, and this is blue baby syndrome. And with this disorder there is a reduction in the oxygen carrying capacity of blood, which can cause shortness of breath and blueness of the skin of infants, or even lead to the infant's death. So, this is one serious consequences. Next is your other contaminants which is available in the groundwater, like bacteriological contaminants like say bacteria, virus, protozoa, helminthes, etc. So, different types of organisms are present in water that can create different diseases. For example, here say this is water associated diseases. Water associated diseases are classified into water borne disease, water wash disease, water based and water related. So, water borne means oral ingestion of pathogens in water contaminated by urine or feces. So, that is say cholera, typhoid, bacillary trachoma. So, there is some example, and water washed diseases. So, this disease spread enhanced by scarcity of water, making cleanliness difficult, and then trachoma and dysentery are two examples, that is water washed. And then water based, water provides habitat for intermediate organism, transmission to human through water contact. So, this is your Schistosomiasis, and then water related diseases are caused because of insect or vectors like say mosquitoes that rely on water for habitat, human water contact not needed. Mosquito can carry this one. So, water is needed for the growth of the mosquito. So, that is the malaria, yellow fever, dengue, etc. So, different types of diseases can take place because of this water contamination, and then bacterial pathogens if present, they will also create different types of diseases like say Salmonella typhi, that is typhoid fever, like say Shigella, so bacillary dysentery, and Vibrio cholera, and then Yersinia enterocolitica, gastroenteritis, and different helminths are also may present in water. So, like say Entamoeba histolytica, so amoebic dysentery, or may Giardia lambia, so diarrhea, and Cryptosporidium, so that can also cause diarrhea. These are the water associated disease. Some other water associated disease may take place through viral pathogens like say poliovirus, poliomycetes, hepatitis A virus, infectious hepatitis, and adenovirus, respiratory eye infections, and others gastroenteritis and diarrhea. So, those can also happen because of these pollutants. Protozoan pathogens like say hookworm, that which causes infections of the intestines, and iron deficiency or anemia, and then roundworm, so ascariasis, and then whipworm, that is trichuriasis. So, these are the waterborne diseases. Now, we will see some air pollution and its impact. So, like water, air also have some pollutants, and then they will be having some impacts as well. So, you see the air pollution may be defined as the presence in the air that is outdoor atmosphere of one or more contaminants or combinations thereof in such quantities and of such duration as may be or tend to be injurious to human, animal or plant life, or property, or which unreasonably interferes with the comfortable enjoyment of life or property or conduct of business. So, this is the impact which the air pollutants can have, and different air pollutants which we have discussed in the previous class was particulate matter, then SOx, NOx, carbon monoxide, lead, etc., ozone, all those things we have discussed in the previous class. So, all those having some impacts like say particulate matter. Particulate matter initially it was suspended particulate matter SPM, now it is defined, redefined, and PM 2.5, PM 10, like this definition was given depending the severity of the particulate matters, variations in the severity of the particulate matters. Like example here, the impact depends on the particle size, shape and compositions of the particulate matter, like large particles trapped in nose. If particle is greater than 10 micrometer, so it will not be able to pass through our nose. Nasal systems, well, that is your tracheobronchial system, they will arrest it, and if particles less than 0.5 micrometer, then also it will reach to the lungs. So, particle 2 to 4 is very dangerous, 2 to 4 micrometer, that is most effectively get deposited in lungs. So, that is why 2.5 PM 2.5 has been introduced. So, what is the concentration of that? That is a major concern now, and because of this particulate matter different health impacts we can have, like say aggravated asthma, increase in respiratory symptoms like coughing and difficult or painful breathing, and then chronic bronchitis, decreased lung functions and premature death even. Then PM also have particulate matter have some other impacts as well on vegetation, on visibility it has, like say visibility impairment. So, particulate matter is the major cause of reduced visibility, and then aesthetic damage, soot, a type of PM, stains and damages stone and other materials including objects such as monuments and statues, and then you see the deposition of particulate matter on the shimmering white marble of the Taj Mahal imparts yellow tinge to the marble surface. So, this is you see this how white it was and now it has converted to the yellowish tinge is there. So, these are the impact of the particulate matter, and plant damage can also be possible. Particulate matter can form a film on plant leaves in interfering with photosynthesis and plant growth. So, these are the impact of particulate matter, and then we will see the impact of carbon monoxide. So, if carbon monoxide we know that is generated basically because of the incomplete combustion of carbonaceous fuels. So, mostly it comes out from the vehicles, at least 77% it comes from the motor vehicles, and this is produced by incomplete combustion and insufficient oxygen, low temperature, short residence time and poor mixings are responsible for it, and you see carbon monoxide can be a danger, and how it can be, let us see. So, we know that due to the presence of carbon monoxide our hemoglobin function is affected, carboxyhemoglobin is formed. Okay. So, that how much carbon dioxide is getting entry into this into our human body, or how long we are exposed, what is the concentration of the carbon monoxide in the environment, that will influence the severity or its impacts. So, it is a colorless and odorless, and when inhaled binds to hemoglobin in blood to form carboxyhemoglobin, reducing the oxygen carrying capacity, just I have discussed, and brain function reduced, heart rate increased at lower levels and asphyxiation occurs at higher levels. So, if concentration is very high, that can be asphyxiation or Shasrodh. Okay. So, now we can calculate the carboxyhemoglobin concentration in our blood if we know the concentration of the carbon monoxide in the environment and our exposure to this environment, so or the atmosphere. So, percentage COHB, that is equal to your carboxy hemoglobin as a percentage saturation, and then CO is the carbon monoxide concentration in ppm, and this gamma NT, gamma is equal to 0.402 to the power 0.402 hour inverse. So, this is a constant, and beta is 0.1% per ppm of CO, and T is the exposure time in hours. So, these gamma and beta are constants, and T is the exposure time, and CO is the concentration of carbon monoxide. So, this is empirical relationship, people have worked on it and they have found that this relationship can be applied to find out the concentration of carboxyhemoglobin in the human blood if someone is exposed in the CO environment. Now, you see this is the different impact due to the CO concentration. So, this is 15 ppm graph, this is 30 ppm, 100 ppm, 300 and 600 ppm, this is your exposure and this is your percentage carboxyhemoglobin. So, if exposure is less, then no symptoms up to this. So, 100 ppm, so exposure is less, no, but if exposure is more, then also the lower ppm also can give us some impact up to. So, up to 50 or 30 there is no impact as shown here. So, up to 50 there is nothing, but percentage carboxyhemoglobin is 10, it is shown here. So, no symptom, but above this if it is more than that 50, and then your duration exposure time will give the severity of the impact. Okay. Somewhere even we can have death, even we can have coma, we can have vomit, collapse, or we can have throbbing headache, reduced mental acuity. So, these are the symptoms we can have at different concentration and exposure time. Now, we will see the impact of SOx and NOx. So, SOx, we know that sulfur is present in many fossil fuels, and when it is combusted the SOx are generated and it has some impact. What are those? Say high concentration of SO2 can result in temporary breathing impairment, and long term exposures to high concentration of SO2 in conjunction with high levels of particulate matter include respiratory illness, alterations in the lungs defenses, and aggravations of existing cardiovascular disease. So, these are the impact, and NOx, particularly NO, has few health impacts, but is oxidized to NO2, and NO2 irritates lungs and promotes respiratory infections, and NO2 reacts with hydrocarbons in presence of sunlight to produce smoke. So, those are the impact of SOx and NOx. You see here these hydrocarbons, NOx and sunlight, it give us the photochemical smoke or oxidants. So, that hazy environment will be generated, accident may take place. Okay. So, primary oxidants produce that ozone, formaldehyde and your peroxyacetyl nitrate or PAN. So, these are some impacts of NOx, that is called the photochemical smog. Ozone can have some impacts as well. So, increased incidence of respiratory distress due to the presence of higher concentration of ozone, and repeated exposure to ozone increased susceptibility to respiratory infection and lung inflammation, and then aggravation of pre-existing respiratory diseases such as asthma, and decrease in lung function and increased respiratory symptoms such as chest pain and cough. And ozone also affects vegetations and ecosystems, and reductions in agricultural and commercial forest yield this one 0.5 billion per year in US alone, and reduced growth and survivability of trees or seedlings. So, this is also a problem for the plants, and then increased plant susceptibility to disease, pests and other environmental stresses. Okay. So, these are the impact of the ozone on living organism, and lead has some impact also. So, this accumulates in the blood, bones and soft tissues, and adversely affects the kidneys, liver, nervous systems and other organs, and excessive exposure to lead may cause neurological impairments such as seizures, mental retardations and behavioral disorders, may be a factor in high blood pressure and subsequent heart disease. Next, we see the impact due to soil pollution. Soil pollution refers to the contamination of soil with anomalous concentrations of toxic substances. It is a serious environmental concern since it harbors many health hazards For example, exposure to soil containing high concentrations of benzene increases the risk of contracting leukemia. The root cause of soil pollution is often one of the following. There may be many reasons, out of those some may be agriculture, that is excessive or improper use of pesticides. So, pesticides if we use, so that will come into the soil and it will be passing through the food, okay, because it is conservative pollutants and then it will be accumulated in the plants and plants to food, and it will be coming to the food chain. And then excessive industrial activity, industrial pollutions will also come into the soil and it can contaminate, and poor management or inefficient disposal of waste, that is also another reason for the pollution of the soil. And because of this soil pollution our food is polluted, okay, water, groundwater is polluted. So, as a result our health will be affected. And for examples of soil contaminations, direct impact like say arsenic in rice. So, recent report says that arsenic is not only available in groundwater, it is also coming into the rice as well. So, because of the contamination of the soil and groundwater both, and heavy metals, pesticides in vegetables. So, in many vegetables we are getting heavy metals and pesticides, this is because of the soil contamination, water contamination, etc. Now, due to noise pollution, what are the impacts of noise we will discuss here. So, due to the noise we may be annoyed, it may be sometimes it may be unbearable, we may be irritated. Okay. So, there will be some physiological effects as well, loss of hearing can also be, and human performance can also be decreased because of the high noise level. And nervous systems, it causes pain, okay, ringing in the ears, feeling of tiredness, thereby affecting the functioning of human system. Even sleeplessness, it affects the sleeping, thereby inducing the people to become restless and lose concentration and presence of mind during their activities. You know, sleeping is very very important for good health. So, if you have 6 hours of sound sleep, so almost most of the diseases we can expect that will not be in the health maybe. Okay. So, damage due to material, the buildings and materials may get damaged by exposure to infrasonic or ultrasonic waves and even get collapsed. So, that can also be some impact of the noise. Now, these are the impact due to air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, noise pollution, etc. But now we will be discussing the impacts of pollution in global scale, that is global warming. As you know, the atmosphere has different layers. So, troposphere, which is associated with the earth's surface up to say 10 to 14 kilometer, then we are having stratosphere, then we are having mesosphere, then it is ionosphere. So, troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, and we have one tropopause here and we have a stratopause here. So, at stratosphere when it starts, then at this case we have ozone layer, okay. The stratosphere ends and mesosphere starts, we have one ozone layer. So, this ozone prevents the passage of UV lights from the sun, okay, and this UV light has good potential to be absorbed by the different gases like say carbon dioxide, etc., and as a result the gas will be heated up. So, atmosphere will be heated up and global warming will take place. So, this is the mechanism through which global warming takes place, and this is because of the presence of the different pollutants in the atmosphere. So, above certain limit, if these are present, then certainly the global warming is obvious. So, that what we are going to discuss. So, ozone sits in the upper atmosphere and absorbs ultraviolet radiations, another types of solar energy that is harmful to humans, animals and plants, that just we are talking about here, the ozone is there. And CFC and halogens cause chemical reactions that break down ozone molecules, reducing ozone's ultraviolet radiations absorbing capacity. So, ozone now UV rays are coming at the troposphere, where carbon dioxides are generated and concentration of carbon dioxide, water vapor, okay, methane, nitrous oxides, all those things are getting more and more concentration. So, these some of these gases, almost all of these gases have capacity to capture that ultraviolet rays and then to increase the temperature of the atmosphere. So, carbon dioxide spreads around the planet like a blanket and is one of the main gases responsible for the absorptions of infrared radiation, okay, felt as heat, and this blanket warms the surface of the earth and protects it from the cold air above it. So, global warming takes place. So, these are the different impacts due to the pollution on human health, on other animals and on the overall environment. Thank you very much for your patience.